To those of you who don't know, academic freeze is a hot topic in the Philippines. One can find it in various social media websites like Facebook, Twitter, or whatever platform elitist people use. Now, there are multiple arguments as to why there should be an academic freeze, and I have a list here of the most common arguments and counter arguments if there are any. At the end of the video, I'll discuss the potential solution to these problems. First and foremost is the most common argument, which is no student left behind. Now, a lot of people are saying that this argument is just an excuse for laziness or even crab mentality, but later on in the video, you'll see why it's more than just crab mentality. Next, it wouldn't work. Now I understand that some courses, like in the medical field, science, or even culinary arts, do require their own study or working spaces as they go along with their program, unlike accountancy and philosophy, who rarely or maybe even never do. However, there are suggestions online that says they should do theories first, then do practice work after the pandemic eases. Third, the quality of education will be poor. Now, there are two reasons for this. First is because there is no teacher student interaction and students will be forced to study independently. While others may perceive this to be bad, studies actually show that studying individually or solitarily can help students be more independent as it helps them understand their own selves and inner workings. It can also help students when attempting to memorize and retain information. This type of learner is called a thinker and it can be developed by studying solitarily. Second, students can easily cheat. Now, why would you even still enroll when you're going to cheat anyway? You're only making the quality of education poor for yourself. Fourth, paying for internet and equipment is a waste of money. Now, online classes isn't the only option. You can choose to have modular classes if you want, or if you do not have the sufficient internet for asynchronous learning. Department of Education has a chart here where you can see and assess which kind of classes you should take depending on your situation. Additionally, a study from 2019 shows that 76 million Filipino citizens are active social media users, spending about 4 hours and 12 minutes a day on average. With that data in mind, there shouldn't be a problem with enrolling in an online class. Granted, 76 million Filipinos do not constitute to the whole Philippine population as it only represents 71% of Filipinos and 29% may or may not have the internet access or gadgets to browse social media, but this is where modular classes come in. Fifth, people would rather buy food and essentials than pay for a tuition fee. This I do not have any counter arguments because I pretty much agree as even before the pandemic hit us, a lot of students dropped out of school to find ways to earn money and help with their family. But if you would argue that you don't want it that way, that you'd still like to go to school despite the pandemic, then stick with me as I will discuss that later. Sixth is because of the psychological problems. Again, I agree with this argument. Online class or normal class, there will always be stress and problems, and I do believe that's part of the process. Now, with all the arguments and counter arguments covered, let's talk about the problem here. There are numerous students out there that are willing to learn but are unable to, maybe because of financial issues. There was even an article about a month ago that said something about someone selling malicious photos of themselves just to be able to enroll. Knowing what several students have to go through just so they could enroll is very depressing. Many might say that they should just stop school with this situation, but as education is a right and being citizens in a democratic country, we should be able to choose whether to enroll to schools given the circumstances. I looked for solutions online as to how this could be fixed, but I came up with nothing after a day of research. Maybe I just didn't search for the right term. But then, a week ago, when I was about to sleep, I saw this Reddit post that says, freeze tuition, no more fees. And that opened a lot of doors for me. Tuition freeze isn't the right term here, though, as it means the restriction of tuition increase. What I was looking for was a way to halt tuition in the meantime. I talked to my friends about it, and apparently, a certain university in Cebu did this on their summer term. They let students enroll now and then pay later. Upon further research, I stumbled upon this article about a tuition fee suspension bill in Chile. However, universities expressed massive disdain towards this idea as it would gravely damage universities. In the same article, it was also mentioned that government support is needed so that universities can hold their own. Now, what about us? What about in the Philippines? Luckily enough, Land Bank has an academe program that offers lending to boost the capacity of private academic institutions to implement a study now, pay later scheme for its students. Even more so as 21 schools are willing to try it out. The lending program is available to a wide range of educational institutions and even up to college and universities. Now, 21 schools isn't a lot when you put the whole Philippines into context. So, we need more schools to do this. The government, being the power that governs, thus is responsible for the people, should support universities if they expect education to continue. After all, teachers need to eat, and an academic freeze would literally starve teachers if that happens.